effective tomorrow, Salat al-Fajr will be changing to 6:30 a.m. and Salat al-Isha will be at 9:15. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Anas bin Malik radiyallahu anhu is the companion of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. A companion who looked into the life of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam very closely by serving him 10 years of his life. And those 10 years were the prime years of Anas bin Malik radiyallahu anhu from the age of 10 to the age of 20. And those 10 years became the most special years of the life of Anas bin Malik radiyallahu anhu. Anas radiyallahu anhu says that once I was sitting with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and a person came, and the condition of this person was very, very severe. His entire face color was changed. His body was very weak. He was not able to even move. In a very devastating situation, by just looking at him and his condition, I was feeling the pain. So when he came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said to the Prophet ﷺ that, O Prophet of Allah, I am going through this condition. Is there any way, is there any help for me? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam looked at him and he asked, do you supplicate to Allah? Do you make dua? He said, Ya Rasulullah, yes, I make dua. Then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam asked him, what kind of dua you make? He said, O Prophet of Allah, I make dua to Allah that, O Allah, whatever punishment you decide to give me in hereafter, bring it early to me in this dunya. Whatever punishment is there for me in hereafter, I don't want it in the hereafter. I want everything to be in this dunya so I can be saved from the horrors of the day of judgment and the punishment of the hereafter. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to him, La tutiq ala hadha. You can never have patience over this. You've asked Allah to give you so much pain in your life which you will never be able to bear in your life. Then he said, O Prophet of Allah, what dua shall I make? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to him, make this dua and make this dua every day in your life. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. That, O Allah, give me good in this dunya, give me hasana in this dunya, and give me hasana in the hereafter, and protect me from the punishment of the hellfire. If you make this dua, Allah will save you from all the punishments of this world, all the difficulties of this world, and all the difficulties of hereafter. And Allah will save you from the greatest difficulty of the hereafter, which is Jahannam and the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this dua is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 201. The dua which is read by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the most throughout his day. Anas radiyallahu anhu says that if Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would make dua to Allah 100 times a day, this was the practice of Nabi alayhi salam, that he used to supplicate to Allah 100 times a day. A person's, sometimes he makes dua, sometimes he doesn't. Even if he make dua one time in a day, he's like, I've done my dues of the today. But the Prophet ﷺ is making dua 100 times a day. So Nabi alayhi salam, Anas radiyallahu anhu says, if the Prophet alayhi salam would make dua 100 times a day, he would read this dua in every single dua of his. And not only every single dua of his, but he would make this dua 3 times each time when he would make a supplication. When he would start his dua, he would say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. In the middle, when he is making dua, he would repeat this dua again. And before he would conclude his dua, he would recite this dua again. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And if Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam made dua for 2 things, he only raised his hand and he asked Allah for 2 things, one of them would be this dua, and other one would be anything else. So this was the dua that was read and that was asked by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam the most. That whenever Nabi alayhi salam supplicated, he would read this dua. So this is the most common dua that we find in the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. In fact, at the time of making tawaf, at going to every single circuit, at every single corner, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would make this dua. Why? Why the Prophet alayhi salam made this dua the most out of all the duas that exist, and of all the duas Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam made throughout his life? Because this is the most jami' dua you can find, the most comprehensive dua that you can ever find. Why? Because it saves you from all the difficulties of this world. Atina fi dunya hasana. And then Mufassirin go into explaining what is hasana. Good life, pious wife, pious children. Having the ability to pray, that's a good life. Having the knowledge of deen, it's a good life. Having to be saved from haram, it's a good life. You can explain good life in many different ways. Allah explained it in just one sentence, al-hasana, one word, hasana. Ask Allah to give you hasana in this dunya. You cannot imagine what comes under hasana. In fact, anything good you want in your life, you make this dua, it is part of this dua. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً. Because when you are asking Allah for good, automatically you're asking Allah to protect you from evil. Automatically you're asking Allah to protect you from haram. Automatically you're asking Allah to protect you from eating someone's wealth. Automatically you're asking Allah to protect you from disobedience of His. Anything that is evil, you're asking Allah to protect you from it. Why? Because you're asking Allah to give you hasana in this dunya. So this is the dua that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam asked the most throughout his life. And Anas radiallahu anhu, throughout his life, this was the very common dua that he would always ask. So whenever we raise our hand to supplicate to Allah, add this dua inside. After every single salah of ours, add this dua inside. Because if this dua gets accepted, we are safe and protected from all the harms of this world, and we have been given all the goodness of this dunya. And at the same time, we have been protected from the punishment of the hellfire and all the difficulties of the day of judgment, and have been given all the good and khair of the day of judgment. We ask the Almighty Allah to give us the ability to practice this dua in our life, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all that which is harmful. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحان الله وبحمده. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.